I started writing instrumental pieces. Actually, I started as a thing on our Patreon for Ryan Hood. I wanted to share ideas as I was writing them with fans of the group, to show them, hey, here's where songs start. They start with some instrumental idea, and then they evolve. But I found pretty quickly that I was sort of too much of a perfectionist to just share like a really raw thing. So I would develop them further and and add the bass in or add the chords, the melody, and pretty soon I was like writing these solo guitar pieces every week to sort of share with that Ryan Hood Patreon. And it became clear they were like developing as complete pieces in a way that they didn't need to be vocal pieces. And suddenly I had wanted to do an instrumental record for a very long time. I had at first thought I would maybe do it with lots of different instrumentalists I've met on the road and played with. And but then once I started to develop these ideas as solo pieces, it just became easier to push ahead, and it tumbled out very quickly. So that was my background, was a lot of instrumental music when I was a teenager, and it's a part of what Ryan Hood does. There's usually maybe one instrumental on every album, and where I kind of get that fix, and Cameron goes through all the hoops to try to be able to play them with me. He's more into the lyrics and the writing part, but he'll go there with me and learn to do those tricky pieces. But this was a chance for me to just do it completely on my own, and it's just a great challenge. That's maybe another answer to that question, is it was a good time to challenge myself. We've been playing together for 20 years. I've played, I don't know, 1,600 shows together, and boy, it's a much different challenge to get up on a stage alone and make that thing work. The P7 DC is pretty much what's on the whole thing. It just records. I like to record with a Dreadnought. I like, and I for a while that was actually what I was touring with too. Because I just love the sound of a Dreadnought, and yeah, I don't have one that beats it recording. It's just really, really great. So, and it plays great. The action's great. It's big, but it's articulate and clear. So it's kind of got the whole EQ range. So I've really loved that guitar all along. What I did do for the first time while recording was blend in the pickup with the miking, which probably is something that instrumental guitarists do, but this is new for me. I've never done it with a Ryan Hood record. We've just mic'd them, and it was probably 7 songs into recording it that there was a song that I wanted to try using some of my stage effects on. So I thought I would record an out from the guitar through my setup and have that as well. And then when I blended that with the mic sound, I had this huge sound that was very much like what's on stage, and that meant I had to go back and re-record the whole rest of the album that way. So it was I had about an hour of feeling sorry for myself, and then I just did it because it sounds great. So all of the songs have that blended in, and I started a couple years ago live using a thin line. I just realized that I didn't need a hulking instrument on stage. I'm a pretty narrow-framed guy, and a Dreadnought is a pretty big instrument on me, and not to mention it's a little bit more physically, you're reaching over it. There's a little bit of a more physical exertion involved in playing it. So I started using the thin line, and it was like, I could play this thing. I could play a 5-hour set on this thing, man. So that's what I got one of them, and then used that a lot. And then as I started doing the instrumental shows, and I wanted multiple guitars on stage so I could have a couple different tunings, I got a second one of those thin line, the same model. I got the black and the red, so they're both up on stage with me, and they're just great guitars, and they're, you know, you don't usually don't believe this when you hear it about a thinner body guitar, but it's loud enough, and I use 13s on it, so that's a pretty loud string, but it's loud enough and strong enough to be used acoustically. And I just used one on the radio in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, for a radio performance last week. That was the guitar I had for the tour, and I went in and did an on-air with that, and it was great. And I did a duet with someone else on there. They had their guitar, and I had mine, and it was like, didn't matter. It was great. So you can even get away with using them acoustically. I still prefer, obviously, the P7, full dreadnought when I'm really recording. But yeah, around the house, writing, most of the time I'm using those thin lines, actually. Wondering how low we got there, and will it take... I think probably the two biggest instrumentalists that influenced me compositionally, which really is a big part of what I'm doing on this album, is really more about the songs, I think, would be Joe Satriani. Was a big early influence of mine, and somebody handed me, somebody had accidentally got a Joe Satriani CD called Time Machine, this double album. One's a live album and one's a studio. And they got it through one of those mail order music things where they mail you a CD every month unless you cancel, and they forgot to cancel, and they got it, and they said, hey, you play guitar, you might want this. And I was probably 13, and it just sort of, that opened up everything, that album. And then I got really into, he's not a guitarist, but Bela Fleck, a banjo player, and just his writing, he's virtuosic, but he's an amazing writer, composer of instrumental stuff. So the two of them, as far as composers, are probably the biggest when we're talking about instrumentalists. There's another list when you talk about the technical people, but those are kind of the really melody-driven guys that have influenced what I do a lot. Well, I mean, I think the pickup system and the electronics sound really good. So, and it's really simple, like on that side of things. I have done a few shows with other guitarists now recently as I've started touring the solo thing, and there's a wide range of pickup systems and things like that get used. It might be a combination of a mic and a undersaddle, or like a transducer against the body and stuff, and I'm always surprised that the other guitarists I'm playing with are like, whoa, that thing sounds great. What's going on there? And it's like, it's the pickup that comes on these guitars, it's the preamp and the pickup that just comes wired into them. So I can get a bunch of low end. I usually kind of scoop out the mids and get a great sound there. They feel pretty bulletproof on the road. So, I have a guitar that was gifted to me, that was built for me by an amateur luthier here, and I love that guitar too. I don't take it on the road very much. It's just a lot more fragile. And the Takamines feel rugged, bulletproof. The price point is also better than the, comparable things. You can get, the sort of top of the line things in the Takamine range are quite a bit more reasonable for a handmade instrument than you'd find in most of the other makers too. So those are the reasons, It's just, and I discovered it through my bandmate Cameron using Takamine. I was using an Ovation for a while, which was cool, although it didn't handle the dry desert very well. And then I don't even know what I used after that. Just kind of bounced around. I guess I was using that one that was built for me, but he had that Takamine for 12, 15 years, just holding up. So that was a reason for me to check it out. I am, yeah. So I just got back from. I was out doing some shows with someone named Christy Linnae, who won the international fingerstyle championship a few years ago, and is a just monster guitar player. And Ryan Hood has crossed paths with her, so I reached out when my record was coming out and said, "Hey, can we, do you want to do some shows together?" And she loved the record, and so I've been out doing shows with her, and I just did a few shows with Andy McKee, who's another monster guitarist, and so I just got back from playing in Denver with him last night, and we're talking about hopefully doing more together. He felt like it was a really good fit, so more there, and just what's neat is so the answer is yes, I'm doing a bunch of touring in the midst of also Ryan Hood touring this fall. Ryan Hood's going to be in the Northeast, and when that run ends, I'm going to do another week and a half out there on my own. It's easier to fit in, man, as a solo artist. It's easier to just like jump on a bill, than trying to squeeze a duo onto things. So I'm finding that it's actually been pretty. There's a lot of opportunity out there. We've got a lot of people we've known from our years of touring that are excited about it, and a lot of them want to collaborate as well. I'm going to be playing with a dobro player named Abby Gardner, she's a singer-songwriter who does vocals in dobro, just that, and it's great. And she played on a song on my record, and so we'll be doing shows together, but there'll be a lot of collaborating too, and it's